All right, today we're going to talk about mastering Claude as your coding partner. And look, this is way more than just learning how to write better prompts. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how you work, moving from being a coder in the trenches to more of a director, a high-level strategist. So let's dive right in. Okay, first things first, we need to get our heads around a massive difference. We're not dealing with a simple chatbot anymore, the kind that just sits there waiting for you to ask a question. No, we're talking about an agent. This is a proactive partner that can actually go out, explore your code base on its own, come up with a plan, and then build stuff autonomously. Now, this new partnership is incredibly powerful, but it also comes with its own challenges. And the biggest one? It's probably not what you're thinking. It really all comes down to one single critical resource. Yep, it's memory. Or to be more precise, it's all about the context window. Think of it like a workbench. Every file you ask Claude to read, every command it runs, every single message you send, it all gets placed on this workbench. And as that bench gets more and more cluttered, well, things slow down. Performance starts to drop. So learning how to manage this space, that is the key to everything. So, okay, how do we actually work effectively with this limited workbench? It all starts with one foundational idea, a golden rule that honestly changes the entire game. And this is it. Seriously, if you take away only one thing today, let it be this. You have to give Claude a way to verify its own work. Giving it clear success criteria, some way for it to check if it's on the right track, is the single highest leverage thing you can do. Because think about it. If you don't, then you are the only feedback loop. You have to catch every single little mistake, and that's just not scalable. Just look at this table. It makes the idea so concrete. The before column is just, well, it's vague, right? Make the dashboard look better. What does that even mean? But look at the after column. Implement this design, here's a screenshot, and then take a screenshot of your work and compare them. See the difference? It's the difference between a frustrating guessing game and a predictable, successful outcome. All right, so now that we have that golden rule of verification locked in, let's talk about the day-to-day workflow. This really does require you to change how you think, to stop being just the coder and start thinking like a director. And this workflow is just brilliant. It's a 4-step process. First, you explore. You let Claude read files and just get the lay of the land, all in what's called plan mode. Then, step 2, you ask it to create a detailed implementation plan. And here's the key. Only after you've looked at that plan and said, yep, that looks good, do you switch to normal mode and let it actually implement the code. This simple little process is a lifesaver. It stops the agent from just running off and building the completely wrong thing. Okay, so we've got our foundation, verification, and we've got our workflow. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of language. How do we actually talk to this thing to get what we want? It's all about being specific. Precision is just everything. So instead of a vague add tests for foo.py, you say write a test for foo.py covering the edge case where the user is logged out. Oh, and by the way, avoid mocks. See? Instead of add a calendar widget, you say, hey, go look at hotdogwidget.php to see the pattern, then follow that. What you're really doing here is embedding your expert knowledge into the prompt itself, and that saves so much time in painful back and forth corrections later. And don't forget, the context you provide isn't just about the words you type. You can do so much more. You can use the @ symbol to directly reference files in your project. You can literally just paste images and screenshots right into the prompt. You can give it URLs to API docs. You can even pipe data directly from your command line, like an error log, straight to Claude. You have all these tools. Use them to paint the richest picture you can. So, great communication, that's one huge piece of the puzzle. But to make that communication really effective and, persistent, you need to build the right environment. I like to think of it like a craftsman setting up their workshop. You got to have your tools in the right place before you start the real work. And the cornerstone of this whole workshop idea is a special file called Claude.md. The best way to think about this is like a set of standing orders for your project. It's where you put all the important context that Claude can't just figure out by reading the code. Things like your team's specific code style or exactly how you run your tests. But here's a warning. You have to be absolutely ruthless about keeping this file short and to the point. Only put in project-specific stuff. Leave out standard things like write clean code or basic language conventions. A big, bloated, clotted MD file is worse than useless. It's actively harmful. It just creates noise, and your most important instructions can get lost. Now, what about specialized knowledge you don't need all the time? For that, you use something called a skills. So imagine you have this complicated multi-step process for deploying to your staging server. Instead of pasting that into the chat every time, you can package it up as a deploy skill. Then you can just call on it when you need it. This keeps your main context window, that workbench we talked about, clean and focused. Then we have hooks. These are for things that must happen every single time, no exceptions. Like maybe you want to run a linter after every single file edit. A hook is perfect for that. And here's the critical difference. An instruction in Claude.md is just a suggestion that Claude might sometimes forget. A hook is deterministic. It's hard-coded. It is guaranteed to run. And finally, one of the most powerful tools in the workshop, subagents. These are amazing. You can delegate a whole task like go investigate our authentication system to a subagent. It goes off and does the work in its own separate context window, and then it just comes back with a summary. This saves a massive amount of that precious memory in your main conversation, keeping it focused on the actual coding. All right, so we've covered the foundation, the workflow, how to communicate, and how to build the environment. Now we get to the really fun stuff. Let's talk about how to take all of this and truly scale your productivity to really multiply your output. This is a fantastic advanced technique. It's called the writer-reviewer pattern. You basically open up two separate sessions with Claude. In session A, you have it act as the writer and implement a feature. Then, in a totally fresh session B, you have it act as the reviewer. You ask it to review the code from session A. Why does this work so well? Because that second session has no biases. It wasn't part of the messy creation process, so it's much, much better at spotting weird edge cases or inconsistencies. And what about huge code-base-wide changes? For that, you can do something called fanning out. It's a three-step process. First, you get Claude to generate a list of every single file that needs to be changed. Second, you write a simple little script that just loops through that list, calling Claude on each file with your prompt. Finally, you run it. You test on a few files, tweak the prompt, and then unleash it on the whole set. This is how you automate refactoring across your entire project. Okay, to wrap this all up, let's quickly go over what not to do. Think of this as a checklist of bad habits to avoid. The kitchen sink session where you throw a dozen unrelated tasks at it? Yeah, don't do that. Find yourself correcting the same mistake over and over? That's a sign you need to stop and write a better prompt. Recognizing these common failure patterns early on is going to save you so much frustration. Look, the technology is here. It's real. It offers a completely new way to build software. The question isn't about the tool's capability anymore. The question is about our ability to adapt, to learn how to direct it. Your AI partner is ready to go. The only question left is, are you?